In just a few short minutes, a video that someone had recorded on their cell phone was uploaded to the internet for the whole world to see. It was a very short clip, lasting only 11 seconds from start to finish. But even though it was short, it was incredibly powerful. By the time the sun came up the next morning and people were waking up to check their phones, more than 4 million people had already watched it. The section under the video where people can write comments was filling up very fast. It was full of messages from people who were totally shocked. They could not believe their eyes or ears. They wrote that Victoria Beckham had just destroyed the perfect image that Meghan Markle's team of helpers had worked so hard to build around her. She did it with just one single sentence. Victoria was a woman who was famous for being quiet, elegant, and graceful. She never made a scene, never shouted, and never lost her cool. But now, after all this time, she had finally decided to use her voice. That one short sentence felt like the start of a huge new story. It felt like an explosion that had been waiting to happen for many, many years. It was not just a small moment. It was the beginning of the truth coming out. 1:19. This was not just a random fight between two famous ladies that you might see on the news for a day. It was a deep and long story about being friends, breaking promises, and staying quiet for a very long time. It went on for much longer than anyone really knew. When Meghan Markle first became part of the royal family, Victoria Beckham was there. She was one of the very first people to welcome Meghan into the fancy world of rich and famous people in Britain. Meghan was new to the country. She was an actress from Hollywood, and she was trying to fit into a very old, strict, and traditional group of people. Victoria knew that the newspapers and reporters in Britain could be very mean and hard to deal with. She knew how much their words could hurt, so she did something very rare and special. She reached out to Meghan herself. She gave Meghan her own private list of phone numbers. This list had the names of the best people to help her look good, like hairstylists and public relations experts. It even had the names of owners of quiet, private spas who knew how to keep secrets for famous stars. Victoria wanted Meghan to feel safe. She wanted to give her a safety net so she wouldn't fall. She wanted to be a friend who understood how hard it is to be famous. Soon, people saw the two women hanging out together. They were seen at the big tennis tournament called Wimbledon. They were laughing and whispering to each other during the games, just like old best friends do. Victoria even sent beautiful clothes from her own fashion brand straight to the palace for Meghan to wear. People who work in the fashion business said Victoria did not need to do any of this. She did it because she was kind. She wanted Meghan to feel loved and supported in a new place. At the very start, it looked like they were a strong team. It was the Hollywood Duchess and the Queen of British fashion working together. Meghan said nice things about Victoria's clothes in her interviews on TV. Victoria's team was quietly happy and celebrated that a royal was wearing their designs. For a short time, everything seemed perfect. They respected each other, they were both glamorous, and they had a friendship built on trust. 2:41. However, things were not as perfect as they looked on the outside. Behind the smiles and the pretty clothes, problems were already starting to grow like cracks in a glass. By the end of the year 2019, people in the busy media world of London started whispering secrets to each other. They said that Meghan was getting worried and suspicious. She thought someone close to her was telling her private secrets to the newspapers. These were personal things that only her best friends could possibly know. Nobody said a specific name out loud at first, but the rumors spread very fast, like a fire burning through a dry forest. Soon, people started saying one name over and over again. That name was Victoria Beckham. For most people, this sounded completely silly and ridiculous. Victoria had always kept her own life private for 20 years. She never gossiped. Why would she take a risk and tell secrets now? It did not make any sense. But for Meghan, the leaked secrets felt like a personal attack. People who knew the story said Meghan started to stop talking to people she thought she couldn't trust. She did not fight with them or explain why she was upset. She just moved away and created distance. Victoria suddenly felt like she was being left out in the cold. She stopped getting invites to fancy royal dinners. When she sent text messages to say hello, nobody answered her. Victoria had been so nice and shared her world with Meghan, but now Meghan was treating her like a stranger. By the time Meghan and Prince Harry decided to stop their royal jobs and leave, the Beckhams were totally gone from their life. They were not seen together in public anymore. There were no more photos of them being friends. There was only silence. It was a cold, heavy, and sad silence. 3:53. For many years after that, neither woman spoke a word about what happened. The newspapers tried to guess the reason for the fight. People on the internet made up their own stories, but nobody knew the truth because both women stayed completely quiet. Victoria focused on her work. She worked hard on her clothing business and kept her head down to avoid trouble. Meghan moved far away to California to build a new life in Hollywood. For a long time, it looked like the secret distance would stay hidden forever. It seemed like they would just stay apart and never talk about it again. But then came that night at the fancy party, the gala. Victoria stood on stage and looked right at the cameras. She decided that staying quiet was a mistake. She realized that her silence had been protecting the wrong person for too long. She knew it was finally time to let the world know that she had been treated unfairly. 418. The words Victoria said on stage caused a lot of drama and excitement. But then, a news story came out about a charity event, and this story was even more shocking. Victoria had been planning a big party to raise money for a children's hospital. She cared very much about this project. It was very important to her heart. Meghan was supposed to help host the party. Because Meghan was a royal, her help would mean they could raise millions of dollars for the sick children. But people who knew the secret said Meghan did something very mean. She told the people running the event that Victoria's name did not fit with her royal image. Later, an email was found that was allegedly sent by one of Meghan's helpers. The email said that the Duchess wanted them to find a different fashion person to sponsor the event. It said they were worried about how it would look in the newspapers and whether the brands matched. In just a few weeks, Victoria's name was taken off all the posters. Victoria had already spent months planning everything. She had given her designs for free. She had even paid for some of the costs with her own money. Suddenly, she was kicked out of her own event without any warning. Nobody said thank you for her hard work. A friend of Victoria said she felt very embarrassed and sad. She had given her time and her name to help children, only to be told she wasn't good enough to stand next to a duchess. For Victoria, this was the moment everything changed. It wasn't just a lost friendship anymore. It felt cruel, mean, and unfair. 523. The day after Victoria's video became famous on the internet, her husband David Beckham did something to help. He posted a simple photo on his social media. It showed him, Victoria, and their children sitting around a dinner table laughing and looking happy. He did not write a long story. He did not use any confusing tags. He just wrote one sentence under the picture. He wrote, "Truth always comes out in the end." It was a small message, but everyone understood exactly what it meant. It was not just a picture of a family eating dinner. It was a message to the world about honesty. Other famous people started to support Victoria too. A famous model who was friends with Victoria posted 3 heart emojis to show love. A fashion designer shared the picture and wrote, "Some people think kindness is weakness." While this was happening, Meghan's powerful friends said nothing. They were completely silent. There were no messages on Twitter. There were no likes on Instagram. Nobody said anything nice to help her. Oprah Winfrey was silent. Serena Williams was silent. Even Prince Harry, who usually defends Meghan right away when people say bad things, said nothing at all. Photographers saw him at the airport. He was looking down at the ground with a tight, stressed look on his face. That silence said more than any interview ever could. It showed that he might not have an answer this time. 639. For a long time, people thought Meghan could not be touched. They saw her as a brave woman who stood up to the royal family. They thought she was the one telling the truth to the world. But now her silence looked different. Every minute that she did not speak, Victoria looked stronger and more honest. Meghan started to look like she was guilty of doing something wrong. A writer for a fashion magazine wrote something very important. They said, "Victoria Beckham built her whole life on being elegant and controlled." If she is finally speaking up, something must have broken her heart. That sentence explained exactly how everyone felt. This was not a trick to get attention or sell clothes. This was real pain. It was years of friendship turning into sadness. It was professional trust turning into betrayal. It was 2 strong women standing on different sides of a secret. Victoria's message was very clear, even though she didn't say the specific words. She showed everyone that you can only protect a bad friend for so long before you have to stop and protect yourself. 709. Just when everyone thought the story was over and couldn't get any bigger, something else happened. It was a huge shock. Late one night, a short recording of a voice appeared on the internet. It was only 14 seconds long. In the recording, a woman's voice sounded calm but very sharp and mean. The voice said, "She is lucky I don't say what I know about her." No names were mentioned in the clip. There was no explanation of who was talking. But the person who uploaded it claimed the voice belonged to Meghan Markle. They said she was talking about Victoria Beckham. In just a few hours, more than 6 million people listened to it. The internet went crazy with comments. Some people said it was fake and made by a computer. Others promised it was real. Even the people who usually loved Meghan and defended her stopped talking. One fan page on social media deleted their message of support. They replaced it with a sad sentence, "If that recording is real, I don't know what to say anymore." Victoria did not write anything back online. She did not say it wasn't true. She did not fight back or get angry. But a friend told reporters that Victoria was disappointed, but she was not surprised at all. 8-12. Those few words, "but not surprised," hit everyone like a bolt of lightning. They showed that Victoria already knew how mean things could get. She had chosen to be dignified and classy instead of causing drama. Then a new rumor started to spread. This changed everything again. People said that Victoria Beckham was thinking about doing a big interview on TV. It wouldn't be just a short speech at a party or a message on a phone. It would be a long, serious talk.